Come on in, you sit that one. Oh, I'll just do one.
Not pick my nose.
Hey?
No, to not pick my nose.
I'll be 1 second and I'll be back. That's pointing towards. Is that in your way or obtrusive or anything?
No, that's good.
Is it alright?
Is it streaming now?
We're streaming, yeah?
Oh, Christ.
Yeah. Don't worry, we're going smaller screens shortly.
Matthew, have you seen the pop-up cat?
No. I can't quite now. Hello everybody, I hope you're still there. This is Chris Saunders. There we go. Let's put us on this one, it's much more conducive. I hope you can hear us all fine. Let me just find my comments. Hi Chris, hi Mr. Saunders.
Hello, everyone.
So, just do that again so I can see your volume.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. Oh, I'll turn the reverb off you. Consummate professional that I am. I can work it out. Right, so yeah, this is Chris Saunders. You're looking at his fabulous work. Do you want to talk about this one, Chris?
Yeah. Right. This picture is of an American comedian called Bill Hicks, and this was the first well-known subject I photographed, and it was taken while I was a student in Manchester, a photography student in Manchester in 1992. And it was this picture that made me realise that I really wanted to become a portrait photographer. I'd seen Hicks's show on TV purely by accident about a week or so before he was due to play in Manchester. And I'd never heard of him, but I saw his show and I thought it was absolutely amazing. I don't know if how many of you are familiar with Hicks's stuff, but he was a really sort of groundbreaking comedian. And I thought I'd love to meet him, and I thought, well, yeah, I'm a photography student. I didn't even really know that I wanted to be a portrait photographer then, but I thought, well, I'll just go down on the day of his show and wait for him to turn up and ask if I could take his portrait. I explained that we're a photography student. So that's what he did, and to my surprise, he was really up for it. He was really friendly. And I just blundered my way through the shoot and managed to come out with, you know, 1 or 2 decent shots that I still look back on and think, oh yeah, I definitely could have done a better job, but I think it still stands up. And it was subsequently used in a biography of him a couple of decades after he died. He died a couple of years after this photo was taken, tragically. But yeah, that was my sort of way into becoming a portrait photographer, and I think it was. I wasn't naturally a people person back then. I was quite shy and introverted, so I really had to sort of push myself out of my comfort zone then. But I came away, you know, afterwards buzzing, you know, that I'd met this guy who I'd really admired, and came away with something tangible that I'd created in just a few minutes. I spent about half an hour with him, but maybe only 5 minutes taking pictures. And that was pretty much what I did throughout the rest of my course. I'd look who was appearing in Manchester at the time, doing book signings or introducing films at the local art house cinema, and I'd make connections with the people who ran the venues, and, you know, just say, oh, I'm a photography student, can I photograph whoever turns up? And if you want to go on to the next one, Matt.
Yeah.
This is
smoke.
Yeah, you got
Sure.
it. Yeah, I might have one in a minute.
Yeah.
This is film director and artist Derek Jarman. And if I remember right, this was a couple of weeks after I photographed Bill Hicks, and I wasn't even really that familiar with Jarman's work. I knew of him. I knew of his reputation. But he'd got an exhibition that was opening in Manchester, and he was hanging it, and so I just turned up to the gallery and asked him, and he said, yeah, sure, of course, come down tomorrow, blah blah blah. I'll give you some time to do that. And unfortunately, I got there before he did on the day, and unfortunately, he turned up wearing that T-shirt. That's absolutely, it's bright turquoise, the most horrendous coloured T-shirt you could possibly imagine. And beforehand, I'd looked at this piece of art behind him, and that was like a blood red wash over all these awful tabloid newspaper headlines, and I'd loaded up with colour film and everything, so I had to shoot that colour film really quickly and load some more black and white in, and I was really nervous and I was fumbling around everywhere and stuff. And he was talking incessantly all the time, and I just thought, oh, I'm not getting this, and then just something inside me just said, like, just told me to tell him what to do, and I said, Derek, please be quiet. Just turn your head and look this way, chin down, and I got the picture. And it's the only shot that I came up. I took about 20 frames, I think, and it's the only one that worked. So yeah, that was sort of a little bit of a confidence builder as to sort of how you direct people. You have to be really assertive with people and take control of what they're doing. Certainly I do anyway. Every portrait photographer's got their own sort of methodology, something like that. Yeah, way of
methodology.
Doing things. Methodology.
There we go.
Way of doing things. And so yeah, I got two of these well-known people under my belt, and I carried on doing it, and I can't remember which one's next.
I've got to move. I've been told off by Joe for moving the mouse. Oh no! Oh, there we go.
That's Joseph Heller, who wrote a very famous novel, which you no doubt heard of, Catch-22, and he was appearing in Manchester at a bookstore called Waterstones, which had lots of well-known authors appearing, and he was one of the people that I photographed, and I shot 4 frames of him before he got fed up, and but yeah, I think I'm one of the few people in Britain who photographed that guy, and that was subsequently used on a book of his many years later. Next one. So.
Yeah.
Is there anybody question?
Sorry, not playing. Oh, I've moved it. I've probably moved how it looks on the screen. Oh, bollocks. Come on, next one. Sorry. Oh. Where's my sidebar gone? Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. I might have to load it again. It's not happy. Bear with me, folks. Sorry. Oh, you sod. 1 second. Sorry, it's not playing.
I can't even begin to think what you're doing.
Normal service is vaguely resumed. Let me just get it sized right on here. There we go, we're about right, aren't we? Am I missing any?
No, it looks good there. So we'll...
There we go.
This is author James Elroy from around the same time when I was still a photography student, and he was absolutely crackers. It's proper alpha male presence, and I recently got into reading his books a lot, and so I thought, oh yeah, it'd be a great one to photograph. And at the beginning of the book talk that he did, it was all like a prim and proper occasion, and he made his entrance by howling all through the store, like a dog, like. And you could hear like this distant sound, and it gradually got louder and louder, and he just sat himself down and he said, like, I am the demon dog of crime fiction. What about it, motherfuckers? And I'd seen this sort of way out sign earlier on in the day, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll photograph him with that. That seems quite appropriate. And the last one, the next one, go on,
yeah.
On. From this period is of film director Mike Lee, and when I was doing all these series of photos when I was a student, sometimes they'd come out reasonably successfully, and sometimes I'd make a complete balls up of it and not come away with anything. I can think of a few that, because I was having to photograph them really quickly, and sometimes technically things went wrong, or sometimes, I just didn't get a really good photo or whatever. But I'd started writing to people towards the end of my course, finding addresses of like well-known creatives and writing to them saying, I want to put a series of photos together of film directors from a final degree show and that kind of thing. And I heard back from Mike, and so I went down to London to photograph him. But unfortunately, I forgot my reflector. I used to just take one light down and get the subject to hold a reflector underneath, just to bounce the light back up into their eyes. And so I went to the shop round the corner and bought a packet of tin foil, that you use in the ovens, and you can see that reflected in his eyeballs. And though, just as I was about to do the shot, like I was testing my flash, and my flash broke, or my lead broke, or whatever. I can't really remember. And he was very amused by all this, was Mike, and he just like he got an angle poised lamp from his from next door and brought it in. So it was very much a sort of world famous film director being lit by a table lamp and holding a piece of tin foil below his chin. But I still managed to get the shot.
Brilliant. Can I relay a couple of questions for you?
Oh yeah.
So I don't know which one's related to. But Alexander, hello, in Ukraine, asks if they're available in colour, black and white ones, or do you just do them as is?
All of these ones, most of these shots now are like 30 years old, and I was still shooting pretty much in black and white, doing all my portraits, because I was into black and white basically that back then. I'm much more into colour now, as you'll see with my sort of later work. But back then it was I just loved printing in the dark room, and so I didn't really graduate into colour until much later, pretty much when digital came in. Actually, I got much more into colour work.
Right,
there's plenty of that later.
So this one I'll tell you now, but we'll hold it for later. Hetty asks, hello Hetty, asks what the story is behind the eye monster, but we'll get to them, won't we? I think. Are any of those in here?
There's one recent one of a shot very recently, a few months ago, of Eye Monster, but I've photographed them a few times over the years. I should have put some earlier ones in actually, but they're on my website, or at least on my Instagram,
right.
The early ones. But yeah, there's a recent one of Eye Monster coming up.
Jan Van Essen with a question, not so much a question as an insult for me, asking if I'm new to Mac OS, but that's preview just crashed. Tell him, Kev, preview crashed and had to load it again. Marcus says you can't call Joseph Heller a sod, but I reckon you can.
You called him a sod? Did I call him a sod?
You called him a sod, apparently. And I saw another question.
I think I did.
Brian Platt, hello Brian and Pamela. Without naming names or getting yourself in trouble, is it easier or harder to photograph people you respect and admire?
No, I think when I was photographing all these people really early on, I was, often just a bag of nerves beforehand. I'd worked myself into all sorts of anxiety and everything, and I bumbled around like a photography student would. But these days, I just if I'm photographing somebody well known, I just tend to try and just think of them as just another human being who happen to have produced great work. And I do avoid talking to them about the work. I try and find something in common that I've got with them that's nothing to do with the work. And there's a little anecdote about that with maybe the next picture.
Okay.
I think I can't remember which one it is.
It is. Oh yeah, it's that fella. You need a beer or anything?
Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah, a brew dog or a lager.
I'm driving, so. Oh yeah, go on.
Or the brew. Anyway, yeah, this one.
Right, this is David Lynch, and this. I'm sure you all know, if you're a fan of Matt's, you must know who David Lynch is. And he's my favourite ever film director. And back when Twin Peaks first aired, I became obsessed with it, and as I became a portrait photographer, I made a list of all people who were really liked and admired, and as like a photo subject bucket list, if you will. And Lynch was pretty much near the top, if not at the top. And when the internet kicked in, I found his address in Los Angeles of his production company, and sent a letter, just an ordinary snail mail letter, asking, whenever David's over in the UK, I'd love to photograph him. And I didn't hear back. And so every year I persisted, basically, and so every year or so, maybe less, I'd send an email. It got a website up and a contact email, so I'd just fire off a request every now and then, just say like, I'm still here, I'm still bugging you, until I hear back from you saying no, I will persist. And eventually they responded and said like, well, David's coming over in such and such a time. I think this was in 2007, and he'd be happy to have his picture taken by her. By that point, I built up a body of work, and I'd insisted that the session wouldn't take too long. And they said like, yeah, come down to the hotel where he's staying. We'll give you half an hour, which was unheard of. I wasn't expecting that long at all. And so I got down on the day, and I'd looked at the hotel where he was staying. In the lobby, they've got all this Philippe Stark furniture, really strange shapes and styles. And I've got half an hour. I could photograph him on that sofa there, that chair there, in that doorway, etc., etc. So but come the day, arrived there, the hotel had said no to him being photographed in the lobby, and I'd had to photograph him in his bedroom, and his assistant said he's running behind schedule, you've got 5 minutes with him. And so a bag of nerves, so went up to his hotel room. I've got a couple of mates in tow as assistants, and also David Lynch fans, and went into his room. He was there, shook hands, hi, great to meet you, glad it worked out, and in his unmistakable accent. And his room was absolute chaos. They've got a TV crew in there, and like, thought, this isn't going to work. It's all gone wrong. My plan, my military precision plan has gone out the window, but I looked out of his hotel window, and there was a balcony there. So, and I thought, right, we're gonna have to do it here. And so, this is shot on his hotel balcony outside. And the saving grace of it was, by this time the smoking ban had come in, and if it had gone with the original plan, I would never have got a picture of him smoking. And you know, if you're aware of Lynch, he's a prodigious smoker. He's always got a cigarette on the go, and this, yeah, I got 5 minutes with him, did the shot, and I forgot to put it in, but a few years later, I heard from his assistant saying that they wanted to use this shot to promote his first music album, and the shot ended up getting used everywhere in magazines and, you know, advertisements on tube stations and things, and yeah, so like I got the nod from my favourite film director. That's and that was still one of the highlights of my so-called career.
You can see above our little camera that Chris Saunders' website's there, by the way, if you haven't seen it already. Shall I move on?
Oh yeah.
Aha.
This is a fellow called Majid, and this was taken probably 2018, I think, and he'd just been elected, Sheffield's mayor.
Yeah, he was
the mayor of Sheffield, and I don't know how they decide who's going to be the mayor. I think all the political parties take it in turns to put a candidate forward, and it was the Green Party's turn. And Majid had seen my work and got in touch with me and said, like, "Hi Chris, I really want to do a mayor picture that is nothing like any other mayor picture." And so we went for a walk around the town hall, and as soon as I saw this staircase and this perfect platform for him to stand on, I thought, yep, that is the picture.
This is in Sheffield Town Hall.
Yeah.
That spot.
And but he said, like, when we do the shoot, I'm going to have somebody with me who's going to be keeping an eye on us. So, like, we're going to have to work it. We're going to have to get rid of it somehow. And because there's a health and safety issue, not for a start, because over the bike there's probably a 20-foot drop.
Did he suggest it or you?
No, it was my suggestion. I said, like, when I saw this, I said to Majid, like, you're going to be stood on there. That's the picture. Like, there's no other, like, I've got it fixed in my head now. Like, and so come the day, we managed to get rid of her somehow, and this assistant who was hanging around, and I said, you know, get up there. And originally I had him stood on the platform, and it wasn't really quite working. We're looking at the pictures and on the back of the camera, and he suggested, well, why don't I squat down? And yeah, I took 3 pictures of him, and this, you know, the other 2, I don't think he's smiling on them, and this one he flashed his white teeth, and that was a picture. And we thought the council would veto it, but they didn't say a word. But like a couple of days later, it got released online, and it went viral around the world, much to both our surprises. And he subsequently became a very visible figure in Sheffield, much more than any other Sheffield mayor has before.
Most interesting,
unusual
mayor we've ever had.
He was a very inspiring guy. I mean, he obviously, you know, there are a lot of idiots, or a minority of idiots who took exception to him, but you know, he raised thousands for charity, and he's an all-round good egg. You know, really, it was. And I photographed him a lot of times during his year as mayor, but this was the one that kind of set the ball rolling. This one is of Jarvis Cocker, Alex Turner, singer out of the Arctic Monkeys, a very young Alex Turner, and Richard Hawley, and they're sort of like the 3 of the main characters in Sheffield's music scene, or certainly back in the mid 2000s when this was taken. Arctic Monkeys had only just started becoming really big. I think they just had the #1 single, and obviously Jarvis and Richard had been around for a while. And it was taken for a local Sheffield music magazine called Sandman. And the editor had found out that these three people were going to be in London all at the same time in roughly the same area, so he got them together for an interview. And yeah, this shot was a nightmare because we'd originally arranged to do the shoot in the day, but they were all late and it was winter time, so darkness came in really quickly, and I just wanted to photograph them in daylight. And I was panicking, and I was waiting in this cafe for them to turn up. And then I looked out the window, and the bingo hall across the road turned its lights on. I thought, oh, thank God, like that's the place to do them. And spent about 5 minutes photographing them, and subsequently this has become by far the picture that I've sold most prints of. I've sold probably 200 prints of this over the years, at least. And yeah, that was just really good fortune that they were late and there was a bingo hall across the road. Sometimes you just have to roll with what's thrown at you.
Yeah. Are you getting lots of brilliant, says Jan Bauer, whose birthday it is every day. Izzy says amazing. Fabrizio says, well, I wouldn't complain about the outcome.
No,
because it's great. Moving on.
Yeah. This is Richard, who was in the previous picture many years later, probably about 15 years later, and this was taken for his last album cover, the album called Further, and him and his manager asked me to do the cover shots, and I'd done the previous album, which had turned out really well, so I'd gained their confidence, I think, and so we went out to the east coast of England to a place called Cleethorpes first, and did some pictures on the beach under the pier and everything, and they were okay, and but I thought, oh, we'll head down to Flamborough, because I got this location in mind, which I subsequently used in an Eye Monster picture, which you'll see in a bit. But we got there, and like idiots, we'd forgotten about the tide times, and this location I had in mind was right down on the beach, and the tide was coming in, and so just fumbled around for a bit, did some shots with the lighthouse in the background, but then the sky suddenly turned golden, and I thought, all right, let's just hang around for a bit. And over the next 20 minutes, the sky was just a myriad of colours. Some of the pictures from the shoot, the sky is literally golden, but this is sort of 10 minutes later, and we got this spectacular red and blue sky, and I suppose this is just an example of how sort of precise I can be, sort of compositionally. I've really sort of worked out his position within the frame and the way the lighthouse looks behind him. There's a very definite shape and thing to him.
Apologies, folks, by the way, if I miss any of your questions. If they are burning questions, just type them again, because I'm more on it now, because I've got all my cameras settled and everything. Steve Kenny, hi Steve Kenny. Are you using flash with these photos, and if so, on or off camera?
Oh, with some of the earlier ones, it was a continuous light, a really sort of bright light. But then I gradually moved on to flash, and it's always off camera, yeah, always. Some people use it on camera. It's become quite a fashionable thing to do these days, but no, it's I've got what they call a monolight, a really powerful light that's radio controlled. So I've got a trigger on the top of the camera, and that fires the flash, which will be on a stand, wherever I want it, basically. It's just always off camera.
Looks like anyway. A big white cotton umbrella. Is that the one that's got kind of...
you could fix all sorts of attachments to it to make the light really harsh or really soft. But yeah, that's just a hard light, just a bare bulb, basically, bare flash bulb. And next one is, I think,
Sorry.
the picture that ended up getting used on the cover.
Yeah.
That's basically from the same session as the previous picture. I took a lot of them in silhouette with the album cover in mind, and the previous picture was used as like a press picture, to go in magazines and whatnot. You could see his face more. So we've got some of you now.
Hey, who's that guy?
All right, this I think this weren't the first time I photographed you, was it? I think
we did some inside with George sat on my lap because it came up.
Oh yeah, was that the same day? Oh no,
it might have been before.
But yeah, Matt. This is probably about 10 years ago, isn't it? It must be. Matt had, asked me to photograph him to sort of produce, to promote whichever album. What do you remember which album it was?
Do you know? I don't. The Old Magic, perhaps 2016.
Oh no, it's earlier than that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shows what I know. We were talking beforehand about what kind of photograph Matt wanted and things. And I can't remember which one of us mentioned it, but one of us mentioned the photographer Gregory Crewdson. Yeah, Joe and I had gone mad for Gregory Crewdson.
Yeah.
It was open house.
Yeah,
space lit Hollywood domesticity.
Yeah, no, and I'd become aware of this guy's work around that time, but the thing is, Gregory Crewdson's pictures they're all sort of taken in sort of remote suburbia in the US, but what he does is get a big massive film crew, loads of lights. And photograph all these beautiful street scenes, or interiors in suburban houses of people that look lost, basically. And they're really sort of striking, evocative pictures. I really suggest that you look him up. Like, it's Gregory Crewdson or somebody. Yeah, Fabrizio knows his work.
Yeah.
And so we thought well let's have a go and sort of ripping Crewdson off, basically. And
my arms hurt after 3 hours of twisted torso.
Yeah. And Crewdson uses lamps in his photos a lot, and there's often figures in the background that look mysterious, or occasionally at least, and sometimes there's a bright light shining down on the subject. And so we photographed this in Matt's back garden in the middle of winter, and it rained just beforehand, which was so we had to run out, put in plastic bags over all the lamps, stop them obviously getting wet, but it made a lovely shine on the floor, and the girl in the background was a friend of mine, and she was photographed on a separate occasion, and then I composited it in.
That was one of the questions here from Alexander was whether you'd photoshopped on this.
There's tons of Photoshop on this.
There's no flexes on the.
I've removed all the power leads from the lamps, obviously, and the shed, and you can see the floor in front of her is covered in snow, basically. So when I photographed her, it had snowed and it was really cold. So you can see it. You can see her breath to the as we're looking at it to her right, and it just made the whole scene. It kind of fits together, I think. It makes the scene look a bit stranger than it ordinarily would have done if I'd have just shot it all in camera. I can't remember why I photographed them separate, you and her separately, but
it hadn't snowed the first time, and then I think you thought it would just make for a more striking photo with that in too. And obviously does.
Oh, I don't know if there were that much thoughts about it.
Sandra Dernancourt, hello.
Hello.
Photoshop or Lightroom?
Photoshop. Not for any particular reason. I've just never I got stuck into Photoshop way before Lightroom became really popular, and I've just stuck with it. Lightroom's perfectly fine, I'm sure. Yeah, it's whatever works for you, whatever works best for you, and there's plenty more options than Photoshop these days as well. Most of them are really good.
You'd recommended Affinity for me.
Oh yeah,
which
that's right,
I'm loving, and I've given
much cheaper.
Given me Dad for editing his photos too.
This one was a couple of years ago, was it?
Yeah, this was 10 Hymns for Modern Times, so 2022.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this church. There's a brutalist church over the other side of Sheffield from where we are now,
near the Tip.
And I'd seen photos of it, and I thought, oh, that's a really striking structure. And I think you had the idea of like, if I remember right, you were like going to be fighting Kev or something, like struggling with him. And stuff.
Yeah, just getting Kev involved a bit more.
Yeah.
The funniest thing really, which was the first photo shoot we set out for, was a really hot day, and Joe had made me a beautiful jacket, kind of velvet with skulls and things, but it was too small, and my hands looked like bunches of bananas. And decidedly odd photo shoot because of the subject, not the photographer. But yeah, up near the Tip we went here. Jan had a very juicy question.
What?
Are these prints for sale?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Are prints of this photo for sale? So prints of pretty much all your photos are for sale,
just
I'm sure.
Drop me a line if you're interested. Thank you. And so I took some photos of Matt like sort of struggling with Kev, I think, and I couldn't see it myself, if I'm honest, but but then I just got him to hold the violin up. As sort of, there's a cross in the background, obviously, and I just like thought, I don't know how much I'm thinking this in retrospect, or if I just thought it looked good, but it's sort of like I'm trying to get Matt to replace the religious iconography of the cross with the violin. That's my little bit of bullshit.
It's brilliant, isn't it? How I always make up my stuff after we've done it.
Yeah.
Hey.
This is a band called In the Nursery, and they asked me to photograph this for their album cover 1965, which was released I think about 5 years ago. And it's called 1965 because the main elements in the picture were all created in 1965. I don't know how many of you are familiar with In the Nursery, but
loads of them are. Jan Bauer's saying 1961.
Oh, is it 1961? My mistake. And the twins were born in 1961. Well done, Jan, thank you. The car was made in 1961, and the flats in the background were made in 1961. So that was the concept behind the shoot. And it took ages to get that car into place. To get it right, it was backwards and forwards over this and that. Says, no, it's not right. It doesn't look right.
That's an iconic part of Sheffield as well, isn't it? Was.
Yeah.
Hyde Park Flats.
Yeah.
So.
And that's Richard Hawley, who was mentioned previously. He's a lot of his songs were used in a musical that's become really popular over here called Standing at the Sky's Edge, and it's based in characters that occupied those flats over the years. It's very much a Sheffield landmark.
Brilliant.
That's a band called 65 Days of Static, and I found this location out in Lincolnshire. It's basically there's two huge decommissioned radar dishes that stretch back to the beginnings of the Cold War, sort of like 1950s, I think, and they've just been sat there for decades in this farmer's field, and they've become a location that's sort of urban explorers would go to visit and be photographed with. But I'd heard that the farmer whose land that they were on I really started taking exception to people just rocking up and doing whatever they thought they could do. So we went really early, and I usually try and get permission to do this sort of thing, but I gathered that it would have been a no, and it's always better to do the shot and say sorry rather than ask permission and get refused. So I took that approach this time that I wouldn't usually. But we got there really early, and probably about 5 o'clock in the morning, and did a whole bunch of shots, and it was actually a bit of a nightmare technically to get looking right, because you wanted to get this sweep of the dish in, and have the bands sort of quite big in the frame, relatively big in the frame as well. So I had to photograph it on a really wide angle lens, and that's why they're sort of a little bit distorted. They look like they're leaning back, and then we just finished the shoot. We did the last shot, and we could see this Land Rover in the distance coming towards us, like with all like dust. It was like a film. I thought, oh god, the farmer's here! Like, and he was furious. Like, he's like proper get off my land, farmer. And so we had to placate him a little bit. We sent a little bit of money to this charity that he supported, and it was all good in the end. But yeah, we got told off.
Yeah, Thomas Truax.
Thomas Truax is a American musician who I discovered about 20 years ago, and basically his thing is he's a brilliant songwriter, but he also makes a lot of his own instruments. I don't know if you could see, he's holding like a gramophone speaker, and that he calls that the hornicator, and basically he sings into it live, and beats rhythms out on it, which he loops. And like 20 years ago, this was a revelation to me. All this kind of thing is a really sort of wacky stage presence. Created all these brilliant songs, but was like performing them in a manner that I'd never seen before. And if you ever get a chance to see him, go and see him, because he's one of the most original performers that I've ever seen, and you will, I guarantee, come away with a smile on your face. I think you played with him a few times.
Yeah, and there's people, Callie and Alison on here, loving Thomas.
Well, yeah.
Fabrizio asks, were the trails in the sky expected, or were they added later, or was it just
I ordered the planes in to fly over at that specific moment.
Yeah.
No, there was just chance, as a lot of these things are.
Yeah, Jan, you will like Thomas Truax, I'm sure, and I'm planning at some point to bring him for a Patron Garden concert.
Oh, awesome. Sorry, go back now.
Oh, sorry.
That is photographed there with a sculpture that used to be in Sheffield Town Centre, and this is probably about the 4th time that I've photographed him, maybe about 2009. And I'd photographed him a few times before then, and quite a few times subsequently. We've become friends over the years, and yeah, the next one you can see the hornicator a bit better, and that's the most recent picture that I took of him. It's not quite as I don't like it as much as the previous one, but he needed something that showed the instrument off a bit more. But go and see him. Absolutely, go and see Thomas Truax. This is quite a recent picture that I did of a Sheffield band called City Parking, and I'd had this idea in mind for a duo for quite a while, but I never really. It took a while for the right subject matter to come along, and they're obviously the 2-piece, and basically the music's really minimal. It's basically, I've forgotten her name. Jess, I think it is. Just basically talking over sort of this really sort of minimalist electronic guitar-y background, and basically this shot is just a bit of Photoshop trickery. I've got a camera on a tripod, I take a photo of one of them, and then get that subject out, get the other subject in, photograph them in exactly the same place, and then flip one of the images in Photoshop and join them together, so you get this symmetry. And I've done it a couple of times with them. Go on to the next one. Yeah, I've done it exactly the same there.
Brilliant.
And I'll probably I get on with them real well, and I really like their music. So then, if I do continue to photograph them, I'll probably do them in this style each time, because I think it's a distinctive trick.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else had thought of it.
Izzy says so, a bit like Anne Clark.
St. Vincent. Is that Annie Clark? Is that what you mean? That's St. Vincent's real name. Do you mean St. Vincent? Is he?
I've played with Anne Clark, and I can't remember the band she's from.
Oh, it's
kind
not
of performance poet.
It's not who I mean. It might.
It stormed in Athens in amphitheatre when I played with her.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. What's that, Tommy? Hi, Tommy. Do you flip the same person every time? I don't know. I don't know who I've flipped.
Flippy Nick.
Yeah. This is iMonster, who somebody mentioned earlier.
Hetty.
And this is the most recent time I've photographed them. I've photographed them a few times over the years. I know them both quite well. And this was shot for their latest. They become quite famous on TikTok for some reason or other. One of their really old tunes somehow went viral on TikTok, and the band had been dormant for quite a while until this happened, and like all of a sudden, it's like over the last couple of years, there's been this burst of recognition for them, and so they got back together and they're writing new tunes now, and they've booked a tour. Don't think hardly ever played live before, and this was taken to promote one of the new songs that they released towards the end of last year, and this is the location that I wanted to photograph Richard Hall in. Remember the picture with the lighthouse? Well, this location is just down on the beach from there. So I'd logged the location. I thought, I'm gonna use it for somebody probably a bit more appropriate. And I got lots of pictures of them from this day.
Is that Flamborough so that's not far from there?
It's Flamborough. Coast, yeah, well spotted. Yeah. Yeah, it's really brilliantly surreal location.
Hello, by the way, Suzanne and Callie. There you go.
I think we've got some more quite famous people now. This was Michael Sheen. And I'm a big fan of Michael Sheen. He's a good bloke. His heart's in the right place politically, and I always gravitate towards those kind of people, and I like his work a lot. And I asked him on Twitter, "Do you need any headshots doing?" And he said, "Yeah." And so I did a quick photo shoot with him down at Shepperton Studios, and I only had about 5 minutes with him, I think, and so in that situation, it's really high pressure, and you kind of think about what you're going to say to him, and I said to him, just imagine that you're reading the script and you decide that you really want this part, and he just started laughing, and that's when I got this picture. But the rest of the pictures, he got into character, and he's got a really sort of like steely determination in his picture. But I like this one better than any of those.
Yeah, most preferred camera for these shots?
Whichever one I've got. Honestly, I don't mean to be like dismissive about this, but I'm really not a technical photographer. I'm not interested in gear. It's just whatever works. All of these were taken on a camera that's now 10 years old, I think, Nikon D10. It's a black one. It's a black camera. most cameras these days are brilliant, and you know they all do the job. And it's what you do, it's where you point it, what you point it at, and when you point it. That's far more important than the gear, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Hetty says Thomas Truax has a gig with Kate Arnold, who a lot of you know as well, 8th of March in Birmingham, in Brum, the Black Country, and she'll post details.
I might go to that one. That's where Thomas lives these days.
Right, brilliant. Oh,
this is Steve Davis, former world snooker champion, and now a highly respected progressive rock DJ. And I'd grown up watching Steve play snooker. I was a big snooker fan when I was really young, and he was like the sort of Bjorn Borg of snooker. You know, like Borg had that sort of what's the word, like icy cool demeanour.
Yeah.
Like nothing seemed to faze him, and his main rival at the time was a player called Jimmy White, who was like the McEnroe. I don't know how old your audience is.
yeah, they'll be getting it.
Yeah, and so I was fascinated by this rivalry, but anyway, that's beside the point. And this was I got commissioned by this Dutch newspaper to sort of to basically take his portrait while he was here in Sheffield, commentating on the snooker. And you know, the thing is, he doesn't like it. He's packed in playing snooker. He don't like it anymore. He don't like playing it, at least. And music's its much greater passion these days. So I just wanted to combine the sort of two things that have been, you know, the main things in his life.
He had a kind of reputation and played on it that he was really boring.
Yeah.
When in fact, when he came out and said anything, he wasn't. He was really sweet and nice, and
It's a lovely bloke.
had a really nice sense of humour.
Yeah. And his email address is I'll not say the whole of it, obviously, but it's the boring one. That's his name and his email address. It's Killian Murphy in it's a lot of your audience in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Arfish.
Don't know how popular Peaky Blinders was in Europe, but the TV show, but over here it was a really big deal. And I got permission to photograph the two main characters of the show. And this was shot on the first day of filming for, I think, the third series. And they wanted a picture of him with a horse. But first day of filming, it battered it down for pretty much the whole day, and it all got. I was supposed to photograph him first thing in the morning, but they had to fit filming in, and like so, kept moving around to locations, and it all the time just got condensed when you know the filming times, and because it just kept raining and then stopping raining, you do a quick bit of filming, rain, etc., etc. And we went around to about 4 different locations before I finally got 2 minutes with him. So I'd had 8 hours of anxiety, like waiting to get to photograph him, and then I just had a few minutes with him. But it was great. He did what he was told to do. And the next one is Helen McCory, who was the other main character in the show, and that was completely different. I had quite a bit of time with her. And she just got into character. She was absolutely lovely either side of the shoot, but when I was photographing her, she was just absolutely on it. Did all the poses. She said she said to me, like, you don't need to tell me what to do, I'll just do it, and you just click the shutter. It's like brilliant. Easy.
Izzy was asking, the location for that one again.
That's in on the hills above Buxton in Derbyshire, and this was shot in a stately home in Liverpool. And this is an author called Michelle Faber, who wrote the book Under the Skin, and the subsequent film that was made from it is among my favourite ever films. I've still not I think it came out about 10 years ago, directed by a guy called Jonathan Glazer, who directed Sexy Beast and blah blah blah. But yeah, I've still not seen a film since that I've liked more than the film version of this guy's book. And it was appearing in Sheffield at a book festival, and I thought I'd love to meet him. I love the book as well. You see, I shall answer that question in a minute. And out of the blue, I got an email from Michelle a few days before the shoot. He said, like, "Dear Chris, I will bring something along to the shoot that I can guarantee you will have never photographed before." I thought, A, that's unusual to hear from a subject beforehand, and B, I was really intrigued by what he said. So, like, come the day, I took some, photos without a prop, and it looked okay. And I said, like, well, what was this thing that you were bringing along? And it produced out of his bag an embalmed pet lizard. which I wasn't expecting at all, obviously. And yeah, that's his pet lizard embalmed. Yeah, what do you do? No, you just have to, you go with it, don't you? These next few pictures are of a bunch of members of the public who got involved in a very sort of controversial subject in Sheffield. The local council started chopping down a lot of the city's street trees, the trees that line the Sheffield's roads. And Sheffield is known as a green city. It's got is it most trees per square mile in Europe or something, or something or other.
So you say.
Yeah,
lots of trees.
It might be bullshit, but yeah, and the council were sort of turning up in the middle of the night, because having to turn up in the middle of the night to chop these trees down, because a lot of people were so against it, and lots of people about 20 people got arrested, and I photographed a lot of the people who got arrested just for this exhibition that was happening called Protest, and yeah, there's a couple more examples.
Absolutely brilliant community groundswell action.
Oh yeah.
And Alison Teal and a lot of the Greens just did such a good job, and kind of people would turn up in the middle of the night and chain themselves to trees and things.
It went on for a few years, and the protesters eventually were vindicated. It turned out there'd been some corporate ne'er-do-welling behind the scenes, and these people were wrongfully arrested, and they all got compensation, and the council had to apologise and all that. It was ridiculous. But, yeah.
There's been a fabulous film made about it as well by Eve Wood and Jackie Bellamy, called The Felling, which I did loads of the music for. It's got a lot of We Wait for Them, and I played at the City Hall on the opening of it. Nearly wet myself. Most nervous I'd been in years before a gig. Yeah,
I think there might be one more of these. But yeah, I pretty much photographed them all in the same style. I did about 20 subjects. Yeah, and they were all in an exhibition a couple of years later. Right, next one. This was part of a series of photographs I did of people who work in the NHS, and I was commissioned to photograph a load of staff who worked in a hospital in Manchester, and it was all to do with the 75th anniversary of the National Health Service. And this is Martha, and missing something out. And all these subjects were working in conjunction with a visiting writer who got them to sort of write about their experiences during COVID, and on a wider level of working within the NHS. And this is Martha, and she was a nurse, or sort of still is a nurse, and she worked I think 28 days non-stop right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I'm a passionate advocate of the NHS, and it's a lot to do with people like her, and our government are slowly but surely taking it apart, and it disgusts me. I'll start swearing soon if we don't move on. And this is part of the same series, and this is Doretta, and she's holding a picture of her father who came across on the wind as part of the Windrush generation, and he worked as a consultant in the NHS pretty much as soon as he came over, and carried on doing for the rest of his career. So I really enjoyed that project.
Yeah.
It was great.
Brilliant.
I've photographed a lot of artists. I like photographing artists, especially with their work. And this is an artist called Lynette Yadimboaki, and I got commissioned to go down to London to photograph her in a studio. And this was quite early on in her career. I think this is about 2009, and she was quite unknown at that time, but she's now sells her paintings for millions. Yeah, so yeah. And the thing is, like with photographing artists, I try and sort of compose them in a way. I like to photograph artists with the work as much as possible, and I try and compose them in a way that works well with their art. I think I've hopefully chosen a few more that demonstrate this.
That's
later on.
fabulous composition, though, that one.
Yeah. This is an artist. Thank you, Matt. This is an artist called Manish Harijan, and this was more of a collaboration. He was doing a project on refugees, and we wanted sort of picture to sort of promote this work, and somehow sort of try and put in a picture of what in a slightly unusual way what it's like to be a refugee. And so he's got a round mirror in front of his face, and I don't read into it what you will, but it's like that was literally made up on the fly, that idea, and it kind of worked. I like the way the wind's blowing his blanket, and and the sky and everything.
So it's dramatic,
bleak landscape. This is a personal favourite of mine. I really like this picture. It's of a sculptor called Simon Kent, and his thing is to carve figures into big blocks of wood with a chainsaw, and then set fire to them, and then he'll carve into it more and more to produce the final piece after he's set fire to it. And I got this idea. I'm a big fan of Sentive's album covers by a graphic design studio called Hypnosis, who did lots of album covers. They did Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here," and surely some of you are familiar with that, with the two businessmen who were shaking hands in some parking lot, and one of them's on fire. And I kind of wanted to sort of have that same vibe about it. And I wanted the shot to be in a reflection, like it is here. And we chose a day after it had rained heavily in Sheffield, and we trawled round trying to find pools of water where we thought we'd find pools of water, but there weren't any. And then so Simon suggested, why don't we just try and get in the old derelict brewery.
And it's a brilliant derelict.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well.
And we're not thinking that the perfect pool of water would be there. So, but like we hold this sculpture over the wall. It's all much more fenced off now, and it's barbed wire everywhere over this location. But back then it was quite easy to get in, and like we got over the wall and we just laughed, because big expanse of lake of water in this brewery, and got the shot. I'm still really pleased with that one. A lot of these pictures I look back on and I think, I should have done better with that one, but this one I still really like. That's an artist called Mandy Payne, and her subject matter is she paints pictures of brutalist architecture, but they're all really tiny. You know, they're probably only about a foot square, maybe a little bit bigger sometimes. But so I photographed her with the subject matter rather than the paintings, and that is a very typical building that she'd photograph, and she paints, and she paints a lot of subways, and this is the decommissioned electricity substation in town in Sheffield, in perfect weather for that shot.
There was an exhibition in there recently from Sensoria that was fabulous and brutalist, and you went up inside the substation.
I did my backing. Like, I couldn't go. Because there's loads of stairs to go, and I couldn't go. Have you got any results?
Yeah, yes, in my little tub.
I photographed a lot of street artists. I think around 2017 there was a big street art festival in Sheffield, and I got commissioned to photograph a lot of the artists who were taking part in it, photographing them while they were sort of painting the work, and then at the end when they'd finished the piece, I'd photograph them with it, and this one here wasn't part of that, but I basically carried on after the festival had finished and photographed as many street artists as I could, and I'm still doing it actually. And this is a guy called Eugene Booms, and for a lot of the time, these artists paint in places that they shouldn't do. So oftentimes they want to remain anonymous. So I told him to dress in all black, and so it's basically sort of just looking at the subject that he's painted. But
brilliant.
And that one's of Rob Lee, and that mural is actually painted around the corners of a building. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's basically an optical illusion. You have to look at it from a certain angle, and that's kind of Rob's speciality. That you.
Do you know, I didn't notice that at all. If you look at the roof of the building and how it's coming to an apex, and it's been painted, it's fabulous.
I can't remember what's next. That's Trick 09. That's just another example of how I sort of like try to sort of compose the subject with their artwork. Next. Arancipado. Again, just composition, getting the subject looking right as well. These people are really. I've directed them a lot, very very precisely. And one of the artists that I photographed said while I was photographing them, like it's like you're taking a still life of a person. And I'd never thought of it like that before, but yeah, that's often what I do. It's little minute sort of. Change of like chin position and head position, and then kind of saying something that sort of like makes their expression change, in the moment, and then capturing that moment after I've said something to them that will change their facial features from just like stony glazed expression to something a little bit more hopefully engaging.
So Jan was asking whether they're in Sheffield, both of those from the Sheffield street art exhibition. Yeah, Sheffield.
Yeah, they're all in Sheffield. No, that I can't remember if any was. No, none of them that are from that festival that I mentioned. These are all ones that I've subsequently done.
Right. Okay. And final picture, and another one of my favourites. This is an artist called Flem, and I think it was about a year before the pandemic. I'd photographed Flem as part of that festival that I mentioned, and he's a very very shy person. He doesn't like. He's never been interviewed about his work on camera. Never been photographed. Had his photographed with his face showing. He's very media unfriendly, put it that way, and but a lovely guy. It's not like a sort of Banksy thing.
like where he's trying to be anonymous and controversial or whatever. It's very much he just like wants his work to speak for himself. So he's first and foremost a muralist, but he got commissioned to do these sculptures in a disused factory in the centre of Sheffield about 4 or 5 years ago now, and I got commissioned to document the whole construction of these sculptures right from the beginning. So I spent like 3 or 4 months. We had to keep it secret as well. Like, so he's in like in pretty much in the centre of town or thereabouts, working every day in this factory, constructing all these huge sculptures, which are dotted around all this factory in the little rooms. But this was like the main sculpture, and he took a bit of persuading to sort of sit down with this sculpture when it was finished. But I said, like, I know what I'm going to do. Like, you just need to go down and sit there, and it'll take a minute to do it. And he sat there, and I just like it's for me, it's like a perfect encapsulation. It sums him up quite well. He sees himself as a very minor figure in his work. You know, he wants his works to sort of overwhelm him, and not, nobody. He don't want any interest in him. He just wants all the focus to be on his work, and that's why he's so small in the frame. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Pleasure.
No, absolute pleasure to see this. Thank you all for joining in, tuning in, whatever in.
Just any more questions or anything?
Any more questions for people? For people, from people. Yeah, I've lost word speechless.
Thank you, Tommy.
Hello, Tommy. We'll just drink beer for a minute and watch what they're saying. That's Nina.
Thank you, Nina.
Who's probably watching at lunchtime now. Fabrizio in Malta. Fabrizio in Malta. Is he?
Well, thank you, Kirsten.
Kirsten and Daniel. Cheers, all. Oh yeah, Janine's first comment was,
hello, Janine.
She tuned in and you were howling like a dog.
I'll do the sales pitch. If anybody wants to buy any of these photos, feel free to get in touch. Cheers.
You've got the website up there,
chrismsaunders.com, and my Instagram is at chrismsaunders. My other guys, I'm playing in a David Bowie cover band tomorrow night, so anybody in Sheffield wants to come down.
Oh yes, reopened Hallamshire. I'm coming. We're coming. Trent, I've got your memory stick, and I'm so sorry. I've had it ages. I've been meaning to message you if you're out and about, and if you're there tomorrow night. Bowie Contingent, Hallamshire, West Street, Sheffield. I'll possibly forget it and see you anyway. Right, thank you all so much. We'll see you later. Bye all.